And welcome, Hoosier fans, to another episode of Podcast on the Brink, your weekly dose of Indiana University basketball news and discussion. I'm your host, Jerod Morris. Podcast on the Brink is a joint production of the Assembly Call and Inside the Hall. For complete coverage of IU basketball, visit assemblycall.com and insidethehall.com. This episode of Podcast on the Brink is brought to you by Crane Credit Union. Get a $150 deposit into your new Crane Credit Union checking account when you get e-statements, have direct deposit, and use your debit card. Plus, there's no monthly service charges and no minimum balance to open your account. Stop in at any of Crane Credit Union's 14 locations or visit their website at cranecu.org for more information. That's cranecu.org. Crane Credit Union is federally insured by NCUA. On this week's edition of Podcast on the Brink, Alex Bozich and I welcome a Hoosier legend who needs no introduction, Jordan Hulls. We talk with Jordan about life as a father, how things are progressing with his professional career overseas, his upcoming basketball camp, and the special guest who will be making an appearance. And of course, we get his thoughts on Archie Miller and the next era of IU basketball. Before that chat with Jordan, Alex and I talk a bit about some of the latest news in the world of IU basketball, most notably Robert Johnson's stay or go decision and how that affects the first year of the Archie Miller era. All of that and more right now on Podcast on the Brink. Hey, real quick, I want to tell you about our sponsor, SeatGeek. As you know, the NBA playoffs are in full swing, and SeatGeek is the smartest, easiest way to get tickets to every game. With SeatGeek's seamless mobile experience, you can buy and sell tickets in just 2 taps. SeatGeek helps you find the best seats at the best prices, fully guaranteed. There is nothing quite like being there in person, and SeatGeek will get you closer to the action for a great value. I have the SeatGeek app on my phone, and it's by far the easiest way that I have found to shop for tickets. I can be anywhere, and with just a few taps, I can instantly find seats. I actually used SeatGeek earlier this season to buy tickets to a couple Mavericks games so that I could watch Yogi play, and you can use it, and it'll be easy and convenient for you as well. SeatGeek saves you time and saves you money by searching multiple ticket sites to compare prices and find amazing deals, and it doesn't end with sports. SeatGeek also has plenty of concert, comedy, and theater tickets available too. So here's what you need to do. Because the best part is, listeners of Podcast on the Brink actually get $20 off of their first SeatGeek purchase. So download the SeatGeek app and enter the promo code BRINK, B-R-I-N-K, today. That's promo code BRINK for $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. All right, let's proceed with this week's episode of Podcast on the Brink. All right, so Alex, you and I are scheduled to have an interview with Jordan Hulls, but he just let us know that he's out shooting some free throws and doesn't want to talk until he misses one, so I figure we've probably got about 15, 20 minutes before he's here. You want to just kind of chat about the latest news and notes with IU before Jordan gets here?
Might be a little bit longer than that, Jerod. I think he probably might make a couple hundred more before he comes on. No,
yes.
Kidding aside, we will be joined by Jordan here shortly, but Jerod and I actually thought it'd be good to hop on here before that to kind of recap some of the goings-on in IU basketball over the last week.
Yeah, and I think the biggest story clearly is Robert Johnson and his stay or go decision. Obviously, there was widely reported that he is coming back, although he sent out a tweet subsequent to that suggested that maybe he's still in the NBA draft process. What can you tell us about Robert's decision and kind of which way he's leaning at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not walking back or going back on anything that I reported yesterday in terms of being able to confirm what John Rothstein first reported is that Robert was going to come back. I mean, I'm confident that that's the decision that he's going to make, that he's made. Not sure exactly why he tweeted that he's still in the process. Maybe it's just a preference, individually for him that maybe he wants to make the announcement himself, which I can definitely understand. But just kind of following also the other IU media people following the story, that they're all sticking with what they've heard. And, I know a couple of them have talked to Robert's father, Robert Johnson Sr., who said the same thing. So the expectation is that, that he's going to be back in Bloomington next year. And I think for Archie Miller, it's a huge, huge deal because, he's going to be their leading returning scorer, if you can believe that. And really a veteran type leader. I think that you can really build this backcourt around. Having Robert back solidifies, the rotation in terms of having a pretty solid stable with him, Josh Newkirk, Curtis Jones, Devontae Green, and Al Durham, assuming all those guys are going to be in the fold, which at this point, I'm not really expecting any other player movement. So that's a pretty good group, to start a first team round. No one that really jumps off the page at you and says, hey, this guy's going to be a pro for sure. But enough, I think, for Archie to really mold a solid backcourt out of that group.
Yeah, and I know that Robert didn't have a great season last year. I mean, he started out pretty well, but obviously as the season went on, he really struggled. But I don't think it can be overestimated. I mean, how important having a fourth-year senior is, who has played as many games as he has, at home and in the tough road environments in the Big Ten, just to help stabilize the roster this first year for Archie Miller. I mean, can you speak to that a little bit? Because I know some people are a little bit frustrated, a little bit down on Robert because his junior year didn't go quite, I think, as people hoped, especially after the progress it looked like he made as a sophomore. But even with that, having a senior like him who can score like he can, who can defend like he can, I mean, I think it's really big. I mean, obviously getting any of the guys back, OG Thomas or James Blackman Jr. would have been huge, but I think we all felt there was a good chance all of those guys would go. But I think losing Robert would have been a really, really big blow for Indiana and what they'd be able to do in their first year under Archie Miller. Whereas I look at this and him coming back, and I think it would be fair to, at least as you project forward, this could be the difference between an NIT team and an NCAA tournament team. I think that's how big of an impact having a senior guard like Robert Johnson could be.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this for several years regarding Robert and his career. It's been, I think, to this point, through 3 years, he's really struggled to find his role or identity on the team. I'm not saying that he's played bad. In fact, I think there was times last year where he was really one of the best players on the court in certain games. That Ohio State game toward the end of the season really comes to mind. He played terrific in that game. But the first 2 years he had to play alongside Blackman and Yogi, which is as talented as those guys are. Kind of figuring out a way to pick your spot and find your role with those guys can be a difficult thing. And then this last season, playing alongside James again, and then also adjusting to being with Josh Newkirk, I think there was a kind of a learning curve there for him. So I'm really looking forward to seeing next year. To me, he's the clear-cut top dog in the backcourt in terms of, if you need a bucket and you want to go to somebody on the perimeter, I think he's going to be the guy to do it. He's never been in that position before, so I'm interested to see how he responds to that. And like you said, the leadership aspect, he's been through a lot in terms of what he's seen, what he's experienced, played in all the toughest venues in the Big Ten, won a Big Ten title, played in the NCAA tournament a couple of times. And, I think he's a better player than what he showed at times last year. I'm not sure exactly what the problem was where he kind of got in that rut in early February, really throughout the whole month. But there was a lot going on with that team last year, and that, didn't make a lot of sense. And so I think a fresh start could really rejuvenate and kind of give Robert a chance to really go out with a solid final year in an IU uniform. I think him and Colin Hartman together really gives you a solid backbone in terms of leadership if you're Archie Miller going into your first season at the helm.
Absolutely. And I think the obvious discussion that everybody wants to have now that we feel like we have a pretty good idea of what the roster will be for next year is what are the lineups going to look like? And I think, clearly you expect Robert to be a starter. I think it seems obvious that Juwan Morgan and Deron Davis will be starters in kind of any iteration of the lineup that you could look at. And that kind of leaves, the second guard position and a small forward position or, maybe a third guard kind of open there for who will take those starting roles, to me, I think you always default to experience. And so I would expect it to be Josh Newkirk and Colin Hartman. But, we don't know what Colin Hartman can do. We don't really know exactly how healthy he is. Obviously, Josh Newkirk played better toward the end of last year, but you've got a guy like Devontae Green who really showed flashes, a guy like Curtis Jones who's a 4-star talent and also showed flashes like in the Kansas game, but, was kind of non-existent in others. And then, you have to wonder, could a guy like Justin Smith, be maybe even better than advertised and be a guy who maybe not at the beginning starts, but could he be starting down the road? So what do you kind of expect in terms of the lineup as you're kind of penciling it in right now, just looking at kind of the final roster?
Yeah, I agree with you that Deron Davis, Juwan Morgan, Robert Johnson all look pretty solid in terms of their standing, at least where they should be. Now, you do have to keep in mind, this is a whole new system, a whole new coaching staff. Different guys can be viewed in different ways. But I think those three guys are obviously kind of what you build your team around. Beyond that, some of the guys you mentioned, I would agree with. The interesting thing to me in terms of the backcourt specifically is you have 4 guys who have proven that they can do some good things. Now, none of them, maybe with the exception of Robert, have proven it with enough consistency to say, hey, I can really count on this guy. But, Devontae Green had his moments last year. Obviously, Curtis Jones, you mentioned the Kansas performance. And Josh Newkirk is a guy who I think should be a really good defender and a really good facilitator if he comes back next year with a kind of a better plan in terms of how he wants to play and how he wants to run the team. So I think for Archie, he's going to be able to use those guys in terms of having that depth to motivate guys to kind of buy in to what he wants to do. Now, the front court might be a little bit different. Obviously, with a guy like Deron Davis, he's really your own true big man on the team. I mean, Juwan Morgan obviously could probably fill in if they went to a smaller lineup in a pinch, but there's going to be a lot on the shoulders of Deron Davis. Colin Hartman can obviously play the 3 or the 4. I think Justin Smith's going to have a chance to kind of carve out minutes at the 3 and the 4. But the front court a little bit less so on the depth in terms of having a lot of options. But overall, like I said, going back to what I said earlier, I don't think this roster, you look at it and say, well, that guy's a future pro. But I think there's a lot of solid pieces to build around. I mean, I think scoring might be a little bit of an issue with this team because you don't really have a lot of guys that you really say can go out and get, 20 or 25 a night. So I think it's going to have to be maybe a little more balanced than what we've seen previous years. But I think, top to bottom, you've got 8 or 9 guys who, are solid, legitimate Big Ten players. Maybe you go 10 deep, but I think Archie, one of the things he's talked about is maybe paring down the rotation a little bit. He likes to play fewer guys, and there will be obviously some growing pains and adjusting for all these guys and for Archie as he gets used to kind of his personnel. But I think top to bottom, I mean, this is probably going to be one of the more talented rosters, maybe the most talented that he's had at his disposal as a head coach. I mean, Dayton, he recruited a different type of player. There was a lot of 3-star under the radar kind of hungry guys who were looking to kind of find their way. This is a different type of roster composition than what he's used to. Has some more talented guys, but he's also moving up a level in competition to a tougher league. So I think overall if we grade kind of from when he took the job over to right now, what's happened in a little less than 2 months, a lot has happened. Guys have left early, but he's also more often than not won in terms of, keeping the 2017 class, avoiding any transfers. And, some of these guys that he's kind of gotten, like Colin Hartman, to kind of decide that they want to come back for another year. I think there's a lot to be excited about in terms of next year's roster. Like you said, Robert coming back could be the difference between a NIT team and an NCAA tournament team. But I think fans should be excited going into next season because this team is probably not going to be picked to do a whole lot in the Big Ten, maybe middle of the pack. But I think it's going to be a team that's going to be a lot of fun to watch and one that has a chance to exceed expectations rather than this last year's team, which kind of raised expectations and then kind of fell flat on its face.
Let me ask you one more question before we bring Jordan in here. It's interesting. You started talking about next year. We start naming all of these names. It's possible that we didn't name the guy who may be Indiana's best long-term NBA prospect, which is Clifton Moore. If people missed it, Draft Express had some really nice comments for him after what he did at the Jordan Brand game. And he's an interesting guy because Indiana obviously kind of has a dearth of proven size next year, especially behind Deron Davis. And Clifton is a 6'9", 6'10" guy, highly skilled. Obviously, we know that he needs to bulk up. And I haven't really gotten a clear answer in terms of what to expect from him as a freshman. What do you expect from him next year as a freshman? Is he a guy that may be able to, to be a guy that can get in the rotation and earn some consistent minutes, at the 4 and even the 5 spot?
I think he's going to have to play some, at least a little bit, out of necessity, just because it's, Deron Davis is going to be a guy that's going to have to play 25, 30 minutes, but there may be games where he gets in foul trouble. The thing about Clifton is he's not really a center or a traditional big man. He's, 6'10", but he has some guard skills. He can shoot the ball from the perimeter. He's a decent ball handler. He can finish in transition. I think the most important thing for him is this summer, and Clifton Moore and Cliff Marshall are going to have to obviously get on the same page and learn a lot about one another, develop a trust, develop a relationship, because he's a guy that really is going to have to put on some strength and some muscle, some weight this summer to be able to physically compete in the Big Ten, because I don't know that he projects long-term as a back-to-the-basket scorer, but he's going to have to get in there a little bit next year and mix it up and be able to hold his own. So I think overall he's a guy, like you said, that Draft Express is looking at as someone that can develop down the line. I know he's young, I believe, for his class, and I think the sky's the limit for him, but I would exercise folks to be patient because he's kind of a guy that's come from under the radar. He's big, but he's got a lot of work to do in terms of his body, and I do expect him to play a role next year, but I think by the time he's a sophomore or junior, that's when you're really going to see his long-term potential shine through.
Anything else we need to cover on the recruiting landscape? Anything with the NBA guys, OG, Thomas, and James, that is notable to discuss before we bring Jordan in?
It sounds like James Blackman played pretty good at that pro ball combine down in Florida. Met with a lot of teams. Said down there that he's got a lot of workouts scheduled. It'd be interesting. I think we all know that OG is going to go somewhere in probably the top half of the first round, maybe lower down in the teens, depending on who picks who gets taken in front of him. And I think we're all pretty sure that Thomas is going to get picked at some point. I think we're also pretty sure that James is more likely going to go undrafted than picked. But I'm interested to see kind of where he ends up latching on. I think he'll have a chance to make a summer league team, but beyond that, is there going to be a team that's willing to invest money in him on a guaranteed deal next year, whether that be in the D League or a two-way contract, something like that, or is he going to have to go the overseas route? But not a whole lot that came out of the combine in terms of OG and Thomas. I mean, neither one of them did a whole lot besides the interviews and their measurements. So I think we'll hear more about Thomas here over the next month as he goes on the tour of different NBA cities and gets a chance to work out. But I think the more teams that meet with him, you're going to find somebody that's really going to take a liking to his personality and the fact that he's still really young and a guy that with a tremendous amount of upside. So should be another fun month. And in terms of recruiting, it's kind of been a little bit quiet lately. But things will heat back up here next month with things like the MBPA Top 100 camp, and then July as we get into the evaluation period. So I'd expect that to get going again here real soon.
Excellent. I think Jordan just missed a free throw. So he's what was that? Took about 15, 16 minutes. And yeah. I think he's ready to join us now. So
all right.
Coming up next on Podcast on the Brink, our discussion with IU legend Jordan Hulls. We are very pleased on this week's episode of Podcast on the Brink to be joined by an IU legend who needs no introduction, Jordan Hulls. Jordan, welcome back to Podcast on the Brink. It's great to have you.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's been a little bit, but good to be back.
So let me start out by asking you, obviously the most important question. How's Jackson?
Jackson is doing great. He was born at 3 pounds 10 ounces, and he just turned 3 months last week, and he's up to 12 pounds. So
wow,
the boy's eating a lot. He's getting chunky. If he keeps that pace up, his mother's in trouble trying to feed him and myself. So, but he's doing really well, and he'll have his checkups and stuff like that. But right now, he's just being a normal baby, eating a lot, going to the bathroom a lot, not sleeping a lot, all the normal things. So it's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome being home and being able to do that and be part of it.
What's been the thing that surprised you the most about fatherhood?
They always told me the lack of sleep, so I knew going into that, like, that was a no-brainer, and it hasn't really been that big of a deal. But just how the biggest thing for me, before this, I had never really changed a diaper, so that was pretty, when he has blowouts or, something crazy, I'm like, what is going on? What did he eat? He only ate milk, so how is this even possible? But I'd say that, but also just I can't believe that I was able to create something so awesome. And, it's just pretty surreal feeling. Obviously, his first 2 months of life, I wasn't around him. So that was very difficult. And I don't know how my wife was able to, do a lot of that. She had help with her family, obviously, and my family and stuff like that. But just I wasn't there for it. And he was in the NICU for 2 months, like very, hard stuff to go through by yourself, physically when I'm not here. But, I'd say just seeing how much he's grown has been pretty awesome. But just to see what I've been able to create, and, that's my son, it's kind of surreal feeling.
How did you keep up with everything when you were, obviously you had your job to do, you were over in Germany, and you had your, the most important things to you actually in your life happening over here. I mean, how difficult was it for you to be away, and how did you stay on top of everything?
Yeah, it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Fortunately, when my son was born, my team did let me come home. I was able to come home for 10 days, so I saw him the day after he was born. And that was pretty special. But to be so far away, and obviously there's going to be some time difference, when I'm able to see him, when Aubrey's able to see him. The way I was able to do that, the hospital had a cool video feed in the NICU, like in the incubator, so I could go on there anytime I wanted to, and they had like a little webcam of him just stirring around in there. So for me to be able to see him that way, that was pretty special and pretty important for me, just to see how he was progressing. Obviously it's not the same as being there in person, but for me being so far away, that was very beneficial. And I'd FaceTime my wife and things like that to keep up with her, obviously, but if she could, then I'd FaceTime with her while she was with him. Technology has been my best friend, Skype and FaceTime, the last couple of years for sure. But this year has been the most important time for that. And so I was pretty fortunate for the hospital having that for me, and pretty cool of them to be able to do that. So that was pretty neat.
So some IU fans that are listening to this aren't going to believe it, but you just finished your 4th year playing professionally. You started out in Poland, I think, then you went to Kosovo, then you went to Belgium. Now you played in Germany. I think we've talked to you about some of those stops, but Germany this year, the whole experience. I know you've made the decision that you're going to return to that team. What was it like in Germany? Walk us through kind of what it was like during your time over there, and why you decided to go back.
Germany, first and foremost, the league is really good. So the basketball, I'm there to play ball. So that was very important to me, how good the league was for me and my career going forward. So I was really excited about that being my first year over there. There's lots of good players, a lot of Indiana guys over there as well. So that was kind of cool. But really, what I liked about it was also that I liked my coach a lot. I was able to go there. He's a player's coach. You can talk to him. You can, try and figure out what's best for the team and whatnot. And for me to be able to play my game, he put a lot of trust in what I was doing on the court, trying to lead guys, trying to be aggressive when not to be aggressive, all those kind of things. And he really helped me out. So that was another reason why it was big for me to sign back, because he's there next year as well. And for me to get just one more year of, going over there, I already know where I'm going. I'm going into a situation that I'm really comfortable with. That's only going to help me just going in, preseason, having that confidence already. I think that'll really help me out.
Obviously, Indiana fans got to see you play a ton of basketball as a Hoosier, and some Indiana fans who obviously live in Bloomington got to see you play even more than that. So Hoosier fans are really familiar with your game. But obviously, it's now been 4 years since you were at IU, and I'm sure your game has evolved some since then. For Indiana fans who maybe haven't seen you play professionally, what might be the biggest change or transition that your game has made, or growth that your game has made since you become a professional?
Each year I've gotten better. I've learned more things. They say your prime is 26 to 30 or whatever. So hopefully I'm hitting that here. But I'd say the biggest thing for that, I guess you may not have seen a whole lot, or what's different. Maybe I'm more aggressive, I would say, offensively. I obviously in my career at IU, I had games where I was very aggressive, a lot of points here or there, but I would say I have the ball in my hands a lot more. I'm coming off ball screens, truly playing the point guard. When I was at IU, I'd play off the ball some too, which is totally fine. I'm able to shoot the ball and able to do that. But I'd say especially the last 3 years, I've been more the point guard role, which is what I'm way more comfortable doing. I'm 5'10", 5'11". It's where I need to be playing and what I grew up playing the one. So I went way more comfortable with doing that, and I'm way more aggressive, and I think that's what fans would really see. But I think that also goes with how the game's played over there, what they expect out of me, out of foreigners coming over to Europe to play. It's just it's part of the gig. You got to come over, be aggressive, and be the guy. If they're gonna pay money to have a foreigner, they're gonna expect you to produce. So that's been a big change for me. I really enjoy that. My stats are good. My shooting percentages are good. So I think each year I've gotten better, and this past year is the best year I've had as a pro for sure.
That's interesting. Obviously you were dealing with a lot of distractions, in your personal life, which you just talked about. Like, how were you able to stay focused? And was it one of those things where now, your son is born and obviously you're wishing that you were over there, but did it give you more focus? Did you find that you were distracted? Like, how did you deal with all that?
Definitely. I had a good season. The first part of the season, I had good games. I was playing pretty solid. I was getting used to the league. And I'd say the second half of the season, I really played my best basketball. And I played I played even better once my son was born. It was like something switched in my mind, or something just, not that I'm always caring about the game and stuff like that and how well I'm performing. I'm very hard on myself, but when I was playing the games, and then after the games, like, I wasn't so much sulking. I wouldn't say sulking. I wasn't so much worried about all the mistakes I made or whatever. Like, I was so focused on my son that, like, that was the first thing that I wanted to do, and see how he's doing, see how my wife's doing. And I played my best basketball after he was born. So I guess it's the dad effect, and, I have another mouth to feed. I have to perform better and, try and keep working my way up. So as difficult as it was also, kind of motivating for me. Not that I didn't have enough motivation in the beginning, but even more so now that I have him, and, I'm trying to provide even more for my family.
Off the court, over in Germany, what's the culture like? What are some of the things you did when you weren't playing basketball that maybe you wouldn't have ever gotten a chance to do if you didn't have the opportunity to go over there? Was there an experience or two that you had that really stands out, and kind of what did you do in your free time? I know the previous stops we'd talked to you, and you said there's a lot of Netflix. There was a lot of, just kind of killing time, but was it any different in Germany? Did you get out and do anything fun?
I'd say since last year my wife was with me in Belgium, I got to travel a whole lot more, and we did a lot more things like together, because I had someone to do it with, those kind of things. And Belgium was a lot smaller. With Germany, I was in a smaller city up way north in Germany, and the closest big city is Hamburg and Bremen. Bremen's about 40 minutes, and Hamburg is an hour and a half. So those two cities I would go whenever I had visitors. So when my wife came, my parents came out. Those are two things that I really did. And I think one of the cooler things that we were able to do was when my parents came, we went to a concentration camp near Hamburg. So that was something new. I really enjoyed traveling as much as I can, but since Germany's so big, to get to, Frankfurt or Berlin or Munich, Munich's a 12-hour bus ride. So you could take a train and maybe it'd take you 8 hours or so, but there just wasn't enough free time to where you can make an 8-hour trip and, get back. Still a lot of Netflix, still a lot of naps and, just film and games to watch, whatever I can, do to pass the time, reading books. Those things pretty much stayed the same, but those I had a lot more to look forward to. Obviously, when my son was born, I'm counting down to this day, and that's when I get to go home and get to see him. Or in the beginning of the season, this is when my wife's coming. She's coming this time, my parents, so forth. So I had those things to look forward to. And hanging out with my teammates, did those kind of things, toured the city. Since it wasn't a big city, though, so I could do that. I tried to spread it out as much as I could, not do everything in one day or anything like that. But so very similar, but every year there's a new experience, meet new people, new cultures. It was pretty fun.
One of the reasons I wanted to have you on now is because I know a little less than a month from now, actually June 9th or June 7th through the 9th at Bloomington South, you're going to have your annual basketball camp, which I know is very important to you. You want to just talk kind of maybe a little bit about what the whole camp is about for those maybe who are listening that might have a son or a daughter that wants to attend. And I saw maybe a tease out there on Instagram that there may be a special guest pop into camp at some point this year. So that has to be exciting for you as well.
Definitely. Yeah. JH1 Skills Academy is June 7th through 9th at Bloomington South High School. Grades 2 through 5. And grades 6 through 12, there's 2 different sessions, 11 to 1, and then 2 to 5. All the information's on jordanhulls1.com. So I guess a little bit about the academy. This is my 4th annual. And every year we get really excited about getting it going, and I love giving back to the community and getting kids. And the biggest thing for me is really working on the fundamentals. And kids aren't going to come to my camp and they're not just going to be thrown into teams and playing 3-on-3 or 5-on-5 all day, just to waste time and, play against each other. My thing is we have 6 baskets. We're going to do 6 different stations, a lot throughout the day. They get to play competitively the last day, but the first 2 days and half of the last day, it's all going to be skill work. And I'm obviously I wasn't the biggest guy or the strongest guy, quickest, whatever. I was never any of those things. So I had to do all the fundamentals and get all those things down. And that's something that I want to pass down to kids, because I think it's something that's missing. Kids are playing a whole lot more games rather than doing more skill work. And so there's defensive stations, ball handling, shooting, defense, agility, all these different things, to where I'm really trying to get kids to think about the game rather than just going out there and throwing the ball up at the basket. So it's for all skill levels. If you're a beginner, if you're a pro, whatever it is, you can always come and get better, because I have a great group of people who are helping me out, who know the game, love to teach kids, and it's a great opportunity for that. And it's boys and girls. And as you mentioned, my good friend and former teammate Victor Oladipo is going to make an appearance. He's been a great friend of mine, obviously, and he's doing pretty well for himself as well. So I'm excited to have him at least stop by and see the kids, and I think kids will get a kick out of that. So be sure to register, like I said, online at jordanhulls1.com. Spots are limited, so I would sign up now.
Is there any chance that you and Victor will give the greatest missed alley-oop in basketball history another try for the campers?
I don't know if I could ever recreate a more terrible pass in such a big-time game. I was so mad at myself. But it does make for a cool poster, as all those whoever got that picture of him missing the dunk when he has it cocked back is pretty awesome.
Well, that's the thing. It's because of the past almost that is so iconic. Like, it upped the degree of difficulty, And
yeah, maybe it's his fault he missed it. I mean, I thought he was so good that he should have made it, but maybe he gets a cut of that, all those pictures that are being sold of that, and maybe I should get some for the bad pat.
So speaking of the Hoosiers, obviously this has been a really big, tumultuous, interesting offseason in Bloomington.
Mm-hmm.
What were your thoughts when everything, kind of went down, obviously with Tom Crean being fired, Archie Miller being hired? How have you kind of viewed everything that's happened over the last few months?
Yeah, I mean, with me being gone, I wasn't in Bloomington. I wasn't around what was going on as far as like the ins and outs or anything like that. So obviously I reached out to Coach and, said, thank you for everything that you've done for me, the opportunities, because I wouldn't have been able to do what I've done this far without him. And I think people will realize just how great it was to have him and what he did for us, coming into the program, turning us around and, getting 2 Big Ten championships and Sweet 16s and those kind of things. So I think as the years go on, people will really appreciate what he did. But with that being said, it's happened and it is what it is. So I'm really excited about what the program is doing and what's going to happen going forward. I've only heard good things about Coach, and I don't know the rest of his staff personally. I do know Ed Schilling personally, so I thought that was an awesome hire, especially with his connections with the state of Indiana. And, obviously he's done workouts with NBA guys, and he's been all over the place. And he's just a great human being as well. So I thought that was awesome to get him. And obviously having Derek still on staff is cool and great for the state as well, having a guy who's from Indiana and has played at Indiana and, knows all about the program is also very, very good for us. And like I said, I've only heard good things about Coach Miller, and I'm excited to see what he has planned for offense and what he has planned for defense. I've heard the defensive-minded things that I've heard is going to be really good for us, and offensively as well. He proved himself at Dayton and at other places. So it's really exciting time for us. It's different and than what we've had. However long Coach Crean was there, it's been a while. So a new era is going to begin, and I'm excited to see where it goes. Now that I'm a fan as well, obviously I only want to win basketball games and have good kids coming in through the program.
You are a fan, but obviously you're a former player and a legendary player at that. And we hear a lot about, other schools like Michigan State, that really engage their former players and kind of have that culture that gets passed down from era to era, from class to class. Do you know of any outreach that has gone on with former players like yourself to kind of engage you guys and bring you back into the program like that? And how important do you think something like that is for the ongoing sustained success at a program like IU?
Yeah, definitely. I think especially with the rich tradition that IU has, like anytime you can get, someone from the championship teams or, Final Four teams or anything like that, you get to meet those guys and have them come and talk to your team. I know that was huge for us when I was a player, whenever we can get a guy come in, and Coach Crean was really good about getting guys to come in and talk to us about those kind of things. I think that goes a long way. And as for me, I'm going to be living in Bloomington this summer, so I'm really excited to get in and, see Derek, see some familiar faces, see Coach Schilling, and then also obviously meet Coach Miller. And, I think it does go a long way having alumni coming around, and maybe the kids don't know who they are or whatever, but once you see what they were able to accomplish at Indiana, it should, have some lasting effects. And I think Coach Miller has already mentioned, to the public, obviously, that's a big thing for him. He wants to get everybody involved as much as he can to do those kind of things. And, they have golf outings and reunions and those kind of things. So I'm pretty pumped about being able to do that if the schedule allows it. So it's an exciting time, like I said.
One last question for you, Jordan. Indiana is recruiting Musa Jallow from Bloomington North, and it's always interesting when a guy, grows up in Bloomington, gets recruited by Indiana. What is that like? It means, to be recruited by your hometown school, and what are kind of some of the things that Musa is going through right now as he tries to make that decision of if he should stay really, really close to home, or maybe try and branch out a little bit and go somewhere else?
Yeah, it's very appealing. Like, I don't want to say the word normal. That's probably not the right word, but a typical college student who is in their hometown. Sometimes they don't even want to go to their hometown school because, I want to go and learn new things in a different state or a different school, or, find a major that suits you, whatever the case may be. So there's those things for players as well, because you want to maybe try a different state and, try something new. But for me, I'm assuming for him as well that, you're in your hometown state, you're in your hometown. Your friends and family can come to every game and see you play, for 4 years, and you're going to a program like IU with a huge tradition, something that I grew up knowing. Obviously I have a little bit different connections than maybe he does with my grandfather and stuff like that. But, growing up for me, I just loved Indiana basketball. It's, it was in my blood, and I'm assuming, or I'd like to think it's the same for him. Things always change in generations and stuff like that. And, the basketball is different now than it was obviously 20, 30 years ago when I, was being told stories. And then obviously when I was growing up not so long ago, but going into that decision for me, I didn't realize, how great, obviously it's easier looking back, but how great it actually was being able to play there with my parents there, my friends, and then being able to build something, back to what people are used to seeing the program at. And I think he would really, get a kick out of that as well. If that were to happen, I don't know him personally or anything like that, but I can just speak from my experiences that it was the best decision that I ever made, because being from there, and then people will, if you do what you're supposed to do and have a good head on your shoulders and, represent the school in the right way, people are going to respect what you did and hopefully still love you for years to come. I'm surprised people still know my name, but that's kind of the big thing for me, is that it was really special to be able to do that and, have a good career and do those things, being able to represent Bloomington, not just Indiana, but actually the city of Bloomington was pretty cool.
Well, Jordan, you're the quintessential Hoosier, so I think Indiana fans are going to be remembering your name for a long, long time. So we really appreciate you coming on. We really appreciate you coming on, man. You're one of our favorite guests on Podcast on the Brink.
Well, I appreciate it. It's always good talking to you guys, and anytime you need me or anything like that, just let me know.
Appreciate it, Jordan. Have a good one.
Yeah, and tell Aubrey and Jackson that we say thanks for sharing you with us here for a little bit.
Definitely. I might have gotten out of changing a couple of diapers with this talk, so I appreciate you guys as well.
Nice. Cool.
All right,
thanks, Jordan. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Podcast on the Brink. We always appreciate you being here. To get more from me and from Alex, visit assemblycall.com and insidethehall.com for complete coverage of Indiana University basketball. If you liked this episode, please consider sharing it with a friend or family member who loves IU basketball as much as you do. You can also support the show by leaving a rating and review on iTunes, which helps us get the word out to more IU fans like yourself. We'll be back next week with another brand new episode. Until then, as always, go Hoosiers.